What is up? GoodMicWork commentaries back at you with episode 477. I am your host, Greg Morgan. One of those weird two commentary days that I love so much. There has been two videos uploaded today. I tried to wait as close to 24 hours as possible in between the two videos that I uploaded today, January 11th, 2018. The first one was a This Day in History episode that dropped at midnight this morning on the very first episode of Monday Night Raw. The link to that video is right up there in the top right-hand corner. Give that a click, listen, and a like. It was actually a very fun, short podcast to do. I really enjoyed looking back at the first ever Monday Night Raw, discussing what things were like back then, the finale of primetime wrestling, and the evolution of Monday Night Raw, and how it all began back in those days at the Manhattan Center. And it was a fun 30 minutes, so you guys please check out that video. I think you will really enjoy it. But anyway, I'm back up here now finally, a little bit late this week, and like I said, the reason that I am late on episode 477 is because it coincided with my This Day in History video, which is really frustrating because the last three This Day in History videos that I've done, the first ever Raw, the Montreal Screwjob, and the 20th anniversary of Brian Pillman's death and Kane's debut, all of those fell on Thursdays. You know, sometimes I'll look at dates in the future and I'll write one down. I'll say, that's going to be a really great This Day in History episode, but I never pay attention to what day of the week that falls on. And the last three that I've done have all fallen on my normal commentary days, and it was so frustrating. So I knew this week with this regular episode, it was going to come a little bit later in the week. So it's going to be a very condensed version of Monday Night Raw and SmackDown, just going to blow through some of the major things. This was another one of those very skippable weeks in WWE. Neither show was really that earth-shattering. I would say more things happened on Raw than SmackDown, but overall, there's not going to be a ton of stuff to discuss here, but we are going to talk about speculation on the Royal Rumble, the latest names announced for this thing, who might win on the men and the women's side, and what the plans are currently looking like for WrestleMania. Also, we've got Raw's 25th anniversary show coming up in a couple of weeks on January 22nd, which is the Go Home Rumble Raw, and there's a lot of stuff going on that show. Big rumors involving The Undertaker, John Cena, Goldberg, and a shit ton of legends have been confirmed to show up at this 25th anniversary Raw, and it looks like it's going to be a really fun night. So we'll talk a lot about that as well. But other than that, I'm probably just going to mention, you know, some backstage news, some injury stuff here or there, and then I'm going to get out of here. This is only my second regular commentary of the year, aside from the This Day in History episode and a couple of live streams that I have done. And speaking of those, what do you think of the new layout here? I decided to ditch the old banner and the old overlay that I would use here, and I worked really hard on making this beautiful Titantron type of overlay here. I actually used this on one of my live streams last week. I did two of them. One of them I deleted, but the really, really fun live stream that I did last Saturday that was like 5 hours long where I poured a beer on my head and everything, that one I'm going to leave up. That was a lot of fun, and I think you guys will always enjoy going back and taking a look at that. I don't anticipate being up here to do another live stream for a while. This coming Monday night, I'm actually going to be working. Those of you who know, I've mentioned it several times in my last couple of videos. I'm actually on an extended vacation right now. My place of business where I work, we closed down for some massive renovations, and I haven't worked in about 12 days aside from just going in and out and doing some office stuff. But other than that, I've been pretty much home sitting on my ass for the past 2 weeks, but I am back to work this weekend, and it's going to be balls to the wall for the next couple of weeks. So this coming Monday for Raw, I won't even be home to see the show, so I will not be up here after Raw to do a live stream. I would think that the next time I'll be up here to do any sort of live show on YouTube will be after the 25th anniversary Raw in a couple of weeks. So keep that in mind if you're looking for live shows. Until then, you're going to get me in regular podcast form, which I know pleases many of you because a lot of you guys like this format, and so do I, and it's never going to go away. Don't worry. So with that being said, let's jump into what we're going to talk about this evening. We're going to start with Raw. Now, like I said a minute ago, I'm not going to go through match-by-match results here. We're just going to talk about the major angles, the big things that we saw this week on Raw, and there were some notable occurrences on Monday Night Raw, that's for sure. Now, we'll start with what the show opened with. Roman Reigns came out to cut a promo. He was bragging about his big victory the week before against Samoa Joe for the Intercontinental title, a match that I had pegged Samoa Joe to win. And even if he didn't win, I was still thinking that Joe would get the Intercontinental title around his waist at some point in the future. But that's not looking likely now. Roman Reigns comes out there, talks about how he defeated Samoa Joe no matter how big and bad Joe thought he was. He can't stop the big dog, blah, 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 right? Then Jason Jordan comes out. And I've had a lot of opinions on Jason Jordan over the past few weeks. We all know how lame and stupid this guy is. Fans absolutely puke at the sight of him. And as a matter of fact, when him and Roman were in the ring, it was really funny to hear the fans chant, "You both suck." I got a big kick out of that. But I think I'm starting to warm up just a little bit with what they're doing with Jason Jordan, because he's starting to act a lot like his dad used to back when Kurt Angle came in 1999. He's out there, he's kind of interrupting and ruining Roman Reigns' moment, talking about how they're teammates, basically, making himself a self-professed member of the Shield. And then Seth Rollins comes out to kind of set him straight, and he's like, "Look, dude, you're stepping way over the line right now. You're stepping on Roman's toes. You're taking away from his moment." And, Jason Jordan is completely oblivious. And I love that kind of clueless, in his own universe type of attitude that he has. He even tries to do the Shield fist bump at one point, and Roman and Seth look at him like he's absolutely crazy. And I kind of like this. This is something that I can get used to, because Jason Jordan is so lame and so stupid and so over the top in his babyface ways. If they make him that clueless type of guy, that can actually be entertaining. So, that's one thing I will credit the WWE with. Jason Jordan is not strong on the mic. He comes across as a lame, just white meat, douchey fool that nobody wants to see. But WWE is taking that negative and turning it into a positive and say, okay, let's go with that. Let's accentuate it, let's embellish it, and let's make Jason Jordan look like the most clueless motherfucker you've ever seen. And so far, they're doing a good job with it. So if they want to pretend that Kurt Angle and Jason Jordan are father and son, a pretty good way to do that is to have Jason Jordan act exactly like Kurt used to do when he came in. Remember how funny Kurt Angle was? He would interrupt backstage promos and he would say ridiculous shit on the mic without even realizing what he was saying. I remember at one point, back when they used to be really offensive in the Attitude Era and they called Kane the big red retard, I'll never forget one of Kurt Angle's promos where he was talking about Kane being the big red retard. He said, "I would never call Kane that. I have nothing against retarded people. As a matter of fact, I have a lot of retarded fans out there that love and respect your Olympic hero." I'll never forget that line. And he doesn't realize how stupid he sounds. So the fact that they're kind of doing that a little bit with Jason Jordan, I can actually get behind. So I'm slightly curious now where this is going to lead. Jason Jordan, along with all of the other ridiculous things that he was saying, one of them was that he and Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins make the most dominant three-man group in the WWE, basically inserting himself into Dean Ambrose's position. And that's when the Balor Club comes out. Finn Balor, Luke Gallows, and Carl Anderson, they come out to the stage, they cut a promo, they eventually get in the ring and have a stare down with the three of them, and then a small brawl ensues because Jason Jordan can't keep his tempers in check, and that's when Kurt Angle comes out and makes a six-man main event for later that night. Now, we saw the Balor Club, form last week when Gallows and Anderson joined Finn Balor in a six-man match. Seems like they're actually going to run with this. The Bullet Club is extremely over, in the rest of the world, and you got a lot of those guys in WWE. Why they have waited this long to do something like this, I have no idea, but the fact that they're doing it now, I think is positive, and I'm very optimistic. I'm very nervous that WWE is eventually going to let this thing fizzle out, and it's not going to feel as cool as it does now, but at least for the time being, Finn Balor seems like he has something meaningful to do, seems like he has something that he wants to do. I don't know if he pitched this to management. I don't know if this is something he was pushing for. I've seen reports that originally he was maybe going to be Seth Rollins' tag team partner and they were going to win the tag belts together. I'd be fine with that pairing. Those guys are awesome. But I think I like this a lot better. My only hope is that WWE doesn't fuck it up and doesn't turn these guys into jobbers. I don't want to see Finn Balor turn into what Gallows and Anderson became after they debuted. They debuted very hot about a year or so ago or whatever it was. And, within a few weeks, they were just an ordinary tag team on the roster. Their run was not impressive. They were losing more often than they were winning, and they were a complete joke of a tag team. And it's a shame because both of them are very good in the ring, and they're great. They have good charisma. Gallows is fucking hilarious. Carl Anderson can talk. He's solid in the ring. He's decent on the mic. He's got confidence, and, he's a pro. And I think these three guys together can be great, provided WWE gives a shit about them enough to actually make them great. Now, they were off to a good start in the main event because they did defeat Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, and Jason Jordan. And Balor ended up hitting the coup de grace on Seth Rollins and getting the pin. Jordan was kind of the reason for the loss, as you would imagine he would be. He entered the ring illegally at one point when he wasn't tagged in. Referee missed a tag to Roman Reigns, and that kept the weakened Seth Rollins in the ring, and Balor was eventually able to hit his finisher there and get the pin. So there's some dissension there. Eventually the shit's going to boil over with Jason Jordan and Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns and probably even Kurt Angle. Where they go with this, if this still winds up leading to a match involving Jason Jordan versus either Kurt Angle or Seth Rollins at WrestleMania, I think that's incredibly likely at this point, but I still am not 100% sure where they're going with this. You know it's going to have to lead to some sort of a match at Mania with Jason Jordan, and maybe, you know, between now and then he ends up dropping the belts with Seth or whatever and setting all this up. Not really sure yet. If Jason Jordan does go full-blown heel, you know, that's probably coming, but right now the clueless character is starting to grow on me just a little bit. I don't want to throw up when I see Jason Jordan now. Now I just kind of dry heave. So that's an improvement in my book. So we'll have to wait and see where this goes. This show was not over after the main event. Right after all of the dust settles, The Miz ends up hitting the ring. The Miz returned earlier on in the night with a Miz TV segment. And his guests were his Miztourage cohorts, Bo Dallas and Kurt Axel. Commended both of them on a great job that they did in his absence. And they both started sucking his dick, trying to give him presents. Bo Dallas gave him a picture or something, and then Kurt Axel took off his jacket and gave that to him. And then I think Bo Dallas tried to give him his shoes. I mean, they were trying to give him the clothes off of their back. It was so funny. Finally, he told him to chill out, shut up, and announced that he's back. And I don't know, did he announce himself for the Rumble or not? I forget. But later on, I think backstage, there was a segment with Kurt Angle and The Miz, and Kurt Angle made a Intercontinental title match for The Miz against Roman Reigns on the 25th anniversary Raw. So in 2 weeks, we're going to get The Miz versus Roman Reigns for the title, and that could be where Roman finally drops that belt and heads into WrestleMania. So, you know, with Joe losing last week, we kind of had a feeling that that's opening up the door for The Miz's return. The Samoa Joe feud might have just been a time killer until The Miz got back. And with The Miz attacking Roman Reigns after the match, hit him with a skull-crushing finale, and the whole Miztourage gave the triple power bomb to Roman Reigns as well. So The Miz is asserting himself against Roman Reigns, and he's a very good candidate to take that belt off of Roman. They might have just put the belt on Roman because The Miz was off doing a movie. So we'll have to see at the 25th Raw if we get a new champion or not, or if they stretch it out even farther. But if Roman Reigns' Intercontinental title run goes too much longer here, I'm going to start thinking he's going to go into WrestleMania with that belt, unless he loses it on a pre-Mania Monday Night Raw, maybe with Brock Lesnar getting involved or something like that. Otherwise, if they want to take it off of him in a match situation, you know, this probably should be it. It's the 25th anniversary Raw. You know, you should have a big title change, and that could be a good show to do it on. So right now, my early prediction a couple of weeks ahead of time here is that The Miz is going to find a way to win back the IC belt against Roman Reigns in a couple of weeks. Speaking of Samoa Joe, who I just mentioned a minute ago, he's also in the news, and the news is not good. Some sad news to report here. First of all, he was on Monday Night Raw in a match with Rhino one-on-one, which I found interesting because you guys are going to have to fill me in, you TNA fans and stuff. Have these two men faced each other before? There was a time when this could have been considered a dream match. I mean, Rhino's more dominant days back in ECW and stuff. You know, if you put ECW Rhino against TNA Samoa Joe, holy shit, that would be a good match. Here in 2018 on Monday Night Raw, it wasn't much to look at. Joe made very quick work of Rhino and then cut a promo with Renee Young after the match where he announced his entry into the Royal Rumble. But here's the thing. He got injured in that match with Rhino and apparently injured his foot, had some sort of a tear or a rupture in some tendon in his foot. Not an Achilles deal. Some other part of his foot was injured. And reading the reports that I've seen, it kind of varies on how long you can be out for this thing. He was supposed to have an MRI. I don't know what the results of that were. But right now he is in very serious jeopardy of missing the Royal Rumble. This thing could be anywhere from 2 weeks rehab time to 8 weeks. So I think he's probably going to be okay for WrestleMania. At least I hope he is. But the Royal Rumble is in jeopardy. And they also had to pull him from the mixed match tournament, replacing him with Elias. I believe he was teaming up with Bayley. So that's really sad and really scary. Samoa Joe, even in his promo, said that he's not done with Roman Reigns. So maybe that thing is not quite over yet between him and Roman. But his quest for the Intercontinental title might be over if The Miz Miz winds up winning it back. But I'm very concerned for Samoa Joe. I hope he gets better soon. He's already been injured once, and I don't think he was on Mania last year, was he? He was not on the show. So I think Joe missing Mania would be just devastating. So I am really keeping my fingers crossed that Samoa Joe can not only make WrestleMania, but also maybe even make the Royal Rumble. Maybe if he's even just good enough to get out there for 10 minutes or something, because Samoa Joe is not really a favorite to win the Rumble. So at least if he can get out there and be one of the 30 men, I think would be nice, even if he has to work limited. He can just hang out there for 10 minutes and then get eliminated. Really no big deal, right? So I'm really holding out hope that everything's going to be okay for Samoa Joe, and I wish him nothing but the best. Some other big news taking place on Raw was another Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman promo and segment. Now, this was much better than the week before. I was trashing and raking over the coals the horrible appearance by Brock Lesnar the week before on Monday Night Raw when he had the attack and the pull apart with Kane. It was horrible. It was one of the worst Brock Lesnar appearances I have ever seen. They made up for it this past week on Raw. This time, you have Kane coming out and attacking Brock on the ramp after Heyman cuts his long promo, and Brock and Heyman are leaving. He's attacked by Kane. They start brawling backstage, and that's when Braun Strowman shows up. And I loved it when he came in there and attacked Kane. He lifted Brock Lesnar up and threw him into those big crates where one of them even fell on top of Brock after he fell. It was a really good bump by Brock. He also tossed Kane around like a fucking rag doll, and then grabbed the hook and the rope and threw it up on the Raw set and started yanking it down. The whole thing collapses on top of Kane and Brock Lesnar. I thought it looked really cool. We've seen Braun Strowman get into so much mischief backstage, with the shit that he did with Roman Reigns when he wheeled the stretcher off the ramp there, tipping over ambulances, being rammed into trucks while he's in an ambulance. All the crazy things that they have done behind the scenes with Braun Strowman has been really fun, and this was no different. And obviously it was something that was probably taped earlier on in the day that was just spliced in, but it looked great. Paul Heyman sold his ass off, screaming, oh my God, holding Brock Lesnar's hand in the ambulance when the ambulance was loading Brock Lesnar in. Brock was even saying, I don't want to go. Really funny stuff there, so I enjoyed that. But the problem with this segment is that as much as I enjoyed it, it doesn't add any more to the match for me personally. This did not make me want to see this match any more than the week before. And when you're trying to build these matches, that's what these segments are supposed to be designed to do, is to make you want to watch the match. I just enjoyed the segment and the production of the segment itself, but it didn't add any fuel to the fire as far as this feud goes with me, and it doesn't make me any more interested to see this match than I was a couple of weeks ago. I just think it's going to suck. After what Brock and AJ did and what WWE has shown that Brock can do with certain types of opponents, putting him in the ring with two fucking gorillas at the Royal Rumble, to me, isn't going to translate into a very good match. So hopefully these three guys will prove me wrong. But right now, I'm not very optimistic on the match, and I think Brock Lesnar is going to wind up retaining the title and going into WrestleMania. There's not too much speculation there. I can't see this thing going any other way. He had the triple threat a few years back, too, against John Cena and Seth Rollins, I believe, right? At the Royal Rumble, and he came out on top of that. I don't see this being any different. But the segment itself on Raw, I thought was pretty decent. We had Matt Hardy coming out to have a one-on-one match finally. Broken Matt, or Woken Matt, I should say, is finally having an in-ring match with Curt Hawkins, makes quick work of him, and then the lights go off and they come back on and Bray Wyatt is in the ring, and the two of them just have a laugh-off. They start laughing at each other ridiculously. It was okay, I guess, but it wasn't that great, and Matt Hardy wasn't getting that much of a response from the crowd. Even his entrance was a little bit off. He debuted some new music, which was not the piano theme that we heard on the house show a while back. They ended up going with a much different and much more produced theme. There was a lot more going on in this theme. It was a lot faster, and it was a completely different style. And I don't know, my initial impression of it is not that great, but it's something that can grow on me, and I want to say that as well for this feud. Right now, a lot of us are thinking, this Woken Matt thing isn't as great as we had hoped it would be. It's better than what Matt Hardy was doing, but it's not even coming anywhere close to recreating the magic that he had in TNA with this stuff. But I still think if you're patient, this could get over. I mean, it takes a while. I referenced the New Day recently. When the New Day came in, we had all that hype, all those vignettes, all those promos, and then they debuted on TV, and they were just flat. The audience literally did not give a shit about the New Day at all. Saying that now, that sentence now, doesn't even sound right, considering how over those guys are, how charismatic they are, how goofy and colorful everybody is in that group. You know, think of when they first started, it sucked pretty bad. They failed to connect with the fans on all levels here. So sometimes it just takes a while for catchphrases and, you know, and sayings and nuances to get over with the audience. So this crazy laugh that Matt Hardy is doing, you know, and all of his other catchphrases during the match against Curt Hawkins, he was even saying wonderful and this match is over, and all of his Matt Hardy language. He was really working hard to get that stuff over with the audience, but right now they're not responding to it that much. So hopefully this winds up getting better. I think Matt Hardy is going to pour his heart and soul into this. I don't know how micromanaged he is behind the scenes by the WWE writers. They're probably trying to take this gimmick and mold it into their own thing, which usually means that it's going to suck. Also, he's now gotten complete rights to the Broken character. Apparently him and Anthem Media or TNA or whatever did come to some sort of an agreement, and Matt Hardy now owns the rights to the Broken character. So I don't know if they're going to change Woken to Broken at some point. Probably not. It seems like they are now sold on this Woken thing, but I think I liked the Broken version better. But if we get some sort of a weird compound match with Bray Wyatt, if Senior Benjamin makes an appearance, if Rebby comes in, that's a very big possibility. When Jeff gets healthy, he could enter the fray here. So hopefully WWE will not give up on this too quick, and they will allow it to evolve and grow. And hopefully it will turn into something that we all love. But there is an equally good chance that it will turn out to completely suck, and the WWE will have it dropped by the time we even get to fucking WrestleMania. So I guess time will tell there. Those are pretty much the big stories coming out of Raw. The only other thing I want to mention is Enzo versus Cedric Alexander. They finally got this match in the ring, the cruiserweight match that has seen a lot of speed bumps and roadblocks along the way. They finally get it in the ring, and the match doesn't even go right. Enzo gets his eye busted completely open, 15 stitches, something like that he needs. He's bleeding all over Monday Night Raw, face is covered in blood, and then when Cedric dives over the top rope and kind of like a plancha or a suicide dive or whatever the hell it was, he lands on Enzo, who lands very awkwardly on his foot or ankle. And the funny thing is the fall actually looked legit. Enzo immediately starts selling the leg. The doctor comes over, and they end up ending the match. So I don't know if that was an audible. I don't think Enzo's foot or ankle is really hurt, because they did a backstage segment after the match where he's being attended to by doctors and Nia Jax shows up. So it looks like the foot angle was a work, but man, they sold it pretty well. I'm thinking maybe they stopped the match just because of the excessive blood. But Enzo did escape this whole thing. They went through all this trouble to make a number one contender with Cedric Alexander, and then it ends like that. But for the most part, this whole long road to crown a new number one contender and have a title match took way too long, and nothing about it went right. Aside from that, on Raw, a couple of news and notes. We had Sasha and Bayley beating Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville in a tag team match, and Cesaro and Sheamus lost in a tag team match to Titus Worldwide. And earlier on in the night, Cesaro and Sheamus were backstage with Kurt Angle, and Kurt Angle said that they are going to get their tag team title rematch at the Royal Rumble, which I think is good. We need to have a few matches on that pay-per-view other than the 2 Rumble matches and the 2 world title matches, and now we've got a couple of tag team title matches announced as well, because we had another one that they would announce on SmackDown that I'll talk about in just a little bit. But also in a backstage segment with Kurt Angle, I'm not sure if it was the same one with Cesaro and Sheamus or not, but he was on the phone, and he was talking to a female on the phone, talking about an appearance in the Royal Rumble. That could be anybody. Could be Trish. I know he's got history with Trish. They used to be involved in some angles together back in the day. It could be any number of women. Could be Molly Holly, could be Tori, could be Stacy, could be Beth Phoenix. Who the hell knows? Somebody else mentioned to me a very likely possibility. I think I saw this on Twitter in a YouTube comment or something like that, but somebody threw out the possibility of Stephanie being the 30th entrant in the Royal Rumble. How crazy would that be? I mean, what would be worse? James Ellsworth pulling down the briefcase in the Money in the Bank match, or Stephanie winning the Royal Rumble? I mean, that would be so Stephanie. And as much as I hate Stephanie, as much as she makes me want to throw up, the rage from the fans that would result in a finish like that would completely break the internet. And for that reason, I'm almost intrigued at Stephanie coming in and potentially winning this thing. Don't forget, her father won a Royal Rumble too. So if Stephanie won one on the women's side, that would be some fucked up shit. I'd really be upset if they did that, but I would also oddly be curious just because of the shitstorm it would cause. I mean, all those girls, all those women on the roster have worked so hard, which WWE constantly talks about and constantly references and continuously sucks their own dick about how great they are to women. To have Stephanie come out there and steal the spotlight from all of them, That would be crazy. So I'm a little bit torn on that idea. I know 99.999% of the wrestling audience does not want to see that happen, and I really don't either. But like I said, it would cause so much controversy that it might actually technically be a little bit fun, because we don't want this Women's Rumble to be something that we're going to forget. We want this Women's Rumble to be something that we're going to remember for a long time. So they need to have some big surprises in there. They need to have Ronda Rousey in there. How cool would it be if Stephanie came out at 29 and then Rousey came out at 30? That would be awesome. And Stephanie doesn't know that she's in the Rumble, unannounced. Stephanie comes out as a surprise and the fans shit their pants because they're like, oh, fuck, she's going to win the Rumble. Stephanie's going to come out here and steal the spotlight from everybody, and then Ronda Rousey shows up at number 30. Or maybe Stephanie is number 30 and Rousey's not in the Rumble at all, and Rousey just interferes and stops Stephanie from winning the Rumble, and somebody else wins it instead, like Sasha or Bayley or whoever the fuck. So Stephanie being involved in that in some way, I think would be excellent heel heat for her. But WWE better tread carefully on how they pull that off if they choose to do it. But I did think that Stephanie being a participant in the Rumble or coming in at number 30 would be very interesting. So we'll have to wait and see where the signs are pointing to as we get closer. But Ronda Rousey is definitely a very big possibility to make an appearance in this match, whether it be in the Rumble itself or, like I said, interfering in some way. TMZ just released some footage of her having dinner with Triple H, so you know she's in bed with WWE. You know she's close to a deal. If one hasn't been made, she's been training at the Performance Center. It looks like the transition into professional wrestling is pretty much a done deal for Rousey. I don't think she'll be going back to the UFC at this point. She's still a big name. She still has drawing power, and I think WWE really wants to get their hands on her. So we'll see what her role winds up being on the female side of the Royal Rumble. As far as the men go, right now there is still no definitive favorite on the Royal Rumble. I think a lot of us have a SmackDown guy pegged for this because of the way I think Elimination Chamber and Fastlane shake out. It seems more likely that it's going to be a SmackDown guy. Shinsuke Nakamura is right on the top of that list for everybody. You've also got Randy Orton in the match. You've got a lot of other SmackDown stars. Dolph Ziggler could even make an appearance in this thing. So there's lots of possibilities on the SmackDown side, but right now, I'm not really sure who they're going to have win this thing yet, but I'll have a better idea and a full prediction of this pay-per-view after the 25th Raw, and I will give you my final answer as to who I think will win the Royal Rumble. But right now, on the men's side of things, I don't know if they're going to have as many surprise entrants as the women are. I imagine the women are going to have a ton of them. The men might not have that many. John Cena is another name that's also announced for the Royal Rumble, so anytime he's in there, he can be added as a favorite for sure. And I have no idea what they're going to do on the 25th anniversary Raw show in a couple of weeks. There's a lot of speculation right now as to what WWE has planned for John Cena and The Undertaker. And today, I just read a story that Dave Meltzer put out that Goldberg is the likely headliner for the Hall of Fame. I've been saying all along that the headliner for the Hall of Fame this year is going to be one of two guys. It's going to be Goldberg or it's going to be The Undertaker. And since this report of Goldberg coming out likely being the headliner, that means only one thing. Taker is going to wrestle again. And that bums me out. And if he's going to wrestle again, and you combine that with the rumors that we've heard that John Cena is going to have a big match that actually means something this year at WrestleMania, you put two and two together, and you got to think that these two guys are on a collision course. This is a match that they wanted to do a couple of years ago, I think, but Cena got hurt. They went with Roman Reigns last year. Undertaker seemingly retired, taking off the hat and the coat and everything, and then, leaving in the main event of WrestleMania. I am going to be so bummed out if he gets in the ring again, because to me, that was the Undertaker's send-off. And almost immediately, we started hearing the rumblings of him getting back in the ring, potentially next year or something like that. And I'm just very, very, very much against this. I don't know what kind of a match John Cena and The Undertaker can even have. Taker and Roman did not have a good one last year. I understand WWE might want to get this match done just for the epicness of it, but it's like they missed the boat. They also missed the boat on Taker and Sting. So if you didn't do Taker and Sting, I see no reason to do Taker and Cena, especially when Undertaker already had that send-off. So he's going to be at the 25th anniversary Raw. There's a lot of legends already booked for this. The short list that I have written down here is a big name, Stone Cold Steve Austin, that we were all speculating on. A lot of us were like, surely Austin's got to be there, right? He finally has been confirmed for the show. So have the Dudley Boys, Brother Love. How cool is that? Bruce Pritchard, the New Age Outlaws, the APA, Undertaker, who I mentioned, Shawn Michaels, Kevin Nash, Scott Hall, I've heard. I don't know if Scott Hall is confirmed. The Godfather, Teddy Long, Ted DiBiase, Jim Ross and Jerry Lawler, X-Pac, and a bunch of other guys as well, not to mention the main roster talent. So it's going to be a star-studded event. As we know, a portion of the show is going to be taped at the Manhattan Center. They're going to have, I believe, an hour in the Manhattan Center and then 2 hours at the Barclays, and they're going to kind of cut back and forth, and I love that. Because I just talked about it in the episode that I uploaded today on the first ever Raw, that I really liked the Manhattan Center environment and the feel, and I just liked the way it was back then, and it's really cool that they're going back there, even if just to do a couple of things. Now, I don't know how accurate this is, but I did hear in rumor that The Undertaker and Shawn Michaels would be on the Manhattan Center portion of Raw. They might be on both. I don't know. They might go back and forth between Barclays and the Manhattan Center, but what's cool about that is that Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker were also both on the very first episode of Monday Night Raw from the Manhattan Center. So the fact that they're both going to be there, I think is pretty cool. So if Undertaker is going to do anything with John Cena, I don't know if that angle is going to be set up in the Manhattan Center. I wouldn't think that it would be. That would be something they would want for their big audience. So maybe Undertaker makes an appearance at the Manhattan Center, goes back to Barclays and has a confrontation with John Cena in the ring. But the thing is, you can't really announce a match between the two. You can't announce Undertaker versus John Cena at WrestleMania because John Cena still has to participate in the Royal Rumble event. And if he wins that, then he gets a title shot. So if you book John Cena and you announce John Cena versus The Undertaker on the 25th anniversary Raw, that kind of spoils it that John Cena will not be winning the Royal Rumble. And I don't think a lot of fans would have a big problem with that spoiler, but still, it wouldn't make any sense for them to announce that match. So maybe it's just a confrontation, and maybe the way John Cena gets eliminated from the Royal Rumble is because The Undertaker shows up and costs him the match. So that's a possibility there. But either way, it's starting to look like we are going to get John Cena versus The Undertaker at WrestleMania, and I cannot tell you how disappointed I am to hear that. That's a bummer. I was hoping Undertaker would stay retired, but I guess we'll find out for sure in a couple of weeks on the 25th anniversary Raw. I am looking very much forward to the show. I think it's going to be fun. I think it's very interesting and intriguing that they're going back to the Manhattan Center. They haven't been there in 20 years. They came in there again, I think in 97. They weren't there again after 93. They only had the first couple of months there. I don't believe they ever returned until 1997. That was the big ECW Invasion show. The Undertaker was also on that program as well. And the Legion of Doom returned to the WWE on that Monday Night Raw from the Manhattan Center as well. So it's been 20 years since they've even seen that building, and it's been 25 since they started there with Monday Night Raw. So I am looking forward to it. And like I said, that night I will be home. I'm going to make sure I'm off work watching that show live, and I will do a live reaction after the show airs on YouTube. So that will probably be my next live stream. Let's move into SmackDown now, and then I'm just going to mention a couple of things on the Mixed Match Challenge, and then I'm going to get out of here. SmackDown did not have a whole lot going on this week. I'm probably going to spend 3 minutes on this fucking show here, but the show opened up with AJ Styles cutting a promo in the ring with Renee Young, very upset about Daniel Bryan's announcement that it's going to be a handicap match with him and Owens and Zayn at the Royal Rumble. Mentioned that he was kind of being sarcastic and he didn't expect Daniel Bryan to take him seriously. And then Owens and Zayn come out to the ramp to cut a promo. They kind of walk halfway down, and then Shane McMahon comes out, and he's on the top of the ramp. And eventually, after some bickering back and forth, he makes a handicap match for the main event of SmackDown. Since Owens and Zayn are going to be at an advantage at the Royal Rumble, they're going to be at a disadvantage on SmackDown, and they have to take on the team of Randy Orton, Shinsuke Nakamura, and AJ Styles in a handicap main event. We did see some more tension with Daniel Bryan and Shane McMahon backstage. They're still not really getting along, but they're not coming to blows either. And a lot of people have speculated that the possibility of Daniel Bryan turning heel has got to be a complete swerve. There's no way that they're going to do that. I mentioned that last week when he announced that the WWE title match at the Royal Rumble would be a handicap match, and I'm like, that's strange. That's kind of a heelish thing to do for a guy that's so beloved by the audience, but I think it's just a way for the fans, to keep the fans guessing. And when you look at these two characters and you look at who Bryan is and you look at who Shane is, Shane makes the much better heel in this situation. He's been a heel before, and I know Daniel Bryan has too, but not to the level level of Shane McMahon. Daniel Bryan makes a much better face than a heel. He's over as hell. The fans do not want to boo this guy, and I think it would be much easier to boo Shane. He's got experience being a heel, being a douchey heel, and plus his last name is McMahon, which will help the fans boo him a lot. So I think in the end, if this is a babyface versus heel program, Shane is going to be the guy to go heel here. But they're keeping you guessing, and I like it, and we still don't know where this is going to lead. Later on in the main event, you would see AJ, Shinsuke, and Orton defeat Zayn and Owens when they got themselves counted out at first, and then Shane McMahon comes out to the stage and says, nope, we're going to restart the match. It's not going to end that way. This match is now no countout. Then they get themselves disqualified, and Shane comes out again and says, nope, now it's a no DQ match, and eventually they lose in the handicap match to the three baby faces. So that's probably going to anger Daniel Bryan a little bit more. A lot of talk about Daniel Bryan's contract, too. I heard a report that WWE has offered him an extension, but Daniel Bryan need not sign anything unless he knows he can get back in the ring. And as of right now, it's still looking like we're going to get Daniel Bryan versus Shane McMahon. If we don't, what the hell are they going to do? Shane McMahon versus somebody wrestling on Daniel Bryan's behalf would be stupid. I don't want to see that, have no interest in it. Another possibility that I was thinking about is that they could double swerve us. This whole time we're eventually assuming that it's going to boil over between Shane McMahon and Daniel Bryan, and they're going to have a serious conflict that leads to a match at WrestleMania. But if Daniel Bryan, if he needs to stay protected, or WWE is going to say, okay, we're going to let you wrestle, but it's got to be in a tag team match or something like that, we could see Daniel Bryan and Shane McMahon join forces. After all of their friction, they could find their way back to each other and fall in love all over again and take on Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn in a tag team match at WrestleMania. That would be, that wouldn't be my first pick. I want to see Daniel Bryan in a one-on-one match, but at least it would be the next best thing, and at least it would get Daniel Bryan back in the ring again. But WWE has got to let him wrestle. Otherwise, I cannot imagine him signing any sort of a contract extension unless he knows he can get back in the ring, because from everything we've heard, Daniel Bryan wants to wrestle again. He's made that very, very, very clear. So for him to sign and stay on as the GM and just sit on the sidelines and not get back in the ring, that's probably going to kill him. So I don't know if it's an ultimatum by the WWE, hey, sign this contract now or you're out of WrestleMania. Maybe they're doing that to him. Oh, you're going to lose this payday unless you sign an extension with us. I don't know. I really hope Daniel Bryan stays in the WWE forever, and I hope Daniel Bryan can wrestle again. But if he cannot get back in the ring and he wants to, then I want Daniel Bryan to leave. I want him to be able to go to Ring of Honor or Japan or somewhere and be able to wrestle again. And then maybe he can come back to WWE and be a GM years down the road when he finally retires for real. But I still don't think we really know for sure what this is, leading towards. I mean, it's got to be a match. It has to be, right? So I'm very curious internally what's going on behind the scenes in the WWE with Daniel Bryan and his contract situation and what the WWE has laid out on the table for him. Here's what we're going to do. Here's our plans for WrestleMania. We'll let you get back in the ring under these conditions or something like that. I don't know. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out at the Royal Rumble. I'm assuming there's going to be some major interference by Daniel Bryan and Shane McMahon in the handicap match. And I'm hoping that AJ Styles is going to wind up walking out of the Royal Rumble with the title. That's what I think is going to happen. I think AJ, as good as he is, he was Wrestler of the Year, in my opinion, in WWE. Just absolutely phenomenal stuff. The best worker in WWE, I think, currently, and he deserves to go into WrestleMania as WWE Champion and have a big match. And it's really tough to say that about a flat earther, but I admire AJ's in-ring ability so much that I don't care, and I want him to be champion going into WrestleMania, and a match with Shinsuke Nakamura would be fun as shit, would it not? So let's all keep our fingers crossed that we get that gem of a title match at WrestleMania, because we might be getting another one that we're not going to like so much on the Raw side. The only other major news on SmackDown, there wasn't much, guys. There wasn't much at all. Chad Gable and Shelton Benjamin basically turned heel. They've kind of been teasing it. They get in the ring to cut a promo about their match last week with the Usos. They, of course, won the tag team title, and the referee came out and reversed the decision, restarted the match, and they ended up losing. They're pissed off. Gable's running his mouth. Gable is great, by the way. I like him on the mic. I love his shoosh thing that he does. Shoosh! I just get a huge kick out of that. That's something that can get over, especially in a heel way, provided that WWE doesn't overdo it and have him say it 7 times in the same fucking promo. If he just says it once a night, I'm cool with that. So as long as WWE doesn't go too overboard with this, I think shoosh can get over and it can be a t-shirt. But WWE's got to be careful how they handle stuff like this, because normally they fuck it all up. But they were both extremely pissed off about what happened last week. Daniel Bryan winds up coming out. They're pleading their case to him. And they said, how many times have we heard the referee's decision is final? That was one of my arguments, too, is that how many times throughout history have we seen matches that aren't reversed because the referee's decision is final? So WWE kind of making the rules up as they go is annoying and it's inconsistent, but it's what they do. We should be used to it by now. And eventually, after some talking back and forth, Daniel Bryan winds up making a tag team title match at the Royal Rumble against the Usos that will be a 2 out of 3 falls match. So you got Gable and Benjamin versus the Usos, 2 out of 3 falls. That should be pretty good. That'll probably be a pretty damn good title match, and I think the Raw tag team titles will be pretty good as well. So we also had the United States title tournament resuming. Mojo Rawley did in fact beat Zack Ryder. No big surprise there. Bobby Roode was on commentary for this thing, so you knew that the heel was probably going to win this match to avoid a babyface situation next week, and there was a big stare down with Mojo and Roode after the match. Still a lot of speculation on Dolph Ziggler, when he's going to resurface, how he's going to resurface, how long he's going to stay out of action, and what he's going to be doing as it pertains to the United States title. I would like to take credit for being the first person to mention the ladder match idea. I mentioned that the night that Ziggler put the belt down in the ring. In my commentary, I said, what if he came back with another title, had a match with whoever the U.S. champion is at WrestleMania in a ladder match as an homage to Shawn and Razor, maybe even having 2 belts and hanging them up, and literally the next day, those were the rumors all over the internet. But that's definitely one of the possibilities. I've also said that it's possible that Ziggler will interfere in the finals. Maybe we don't even get a new champion. Ziggler might come in and sabotage this whole thing. But if he doesn't, and we're going to crown a new one, the final 4 right now, I believe, is Mojo, Bobby Roode, Jinder, and Xavier, right? I said right from the start of this tournament that I kind of had Jinder Mahal pegged to win this thing because I always thought the United States title would be a much better belt for him to hold, especially with his anti-America type of promos and being from India and all of the national pride type of promos that he cuts and all that crap. I thought the U.S. title would just make more sense for him to hold. So this could be a decent step down for him. He's not going to be in the world title picture anymore, but maybe put the United States belt back on him and then have Dolph Ziggler come back. I don't know, maybe as a babyface, maybe Jinder runs with the belt for a few weeks on TV, does and says a whole bunch of dastardly shit. It pisses off Dolph Ziggler, brings him out of hiding to take the belt back and to save the WWE from this shithead that's holding the U.S. title. I don't know. But right now, I guess I'm going to pick Jinder. Jinder or Bobby Roode are the likely candidates here. Or Mojo Rawley. I can see them going with Mojo too. He did win the Andre the Giant Battle Royal. He's recently turned heel. They're trying to push him, but I just do not like Mojo. I really think all of them are favorites at this point. I even mentioned the possibility of Xavier Woods winning the title recently, and I like that idea too. But at the end of the day, I'm thinking we might get a Bobby Roode and Jinder Mahal final here. If not, we're going to get Mojo and Xavier. Those are the 2 matches we're going to get. It's going to be one of those 2. If Mojo makes it to the finals, he's not going to be taking on Jinder. He's going to be taking on Xavier. And if Roode makes it to the finals, he's not going to be taking on Xavier. He's going to be taking on Jinder. So I'd like to know what you guys think about the U.S. title tournament. And if Dolph Ziggler does not sabotage it and screw it up, who do you think is going to come out of this thing with the United States title? Would love to hear your thoughts on that. Rusev Day also lost to Breezango on SmackDown, and I'd be lying if I told you that I didn't cry a little bit when that happened. Very sad to see Rusev lose. I never want to see that. Before the match, though, him and Aiden English cut a promo where they announced their entries into the Royal Rumble, so they will both be there. Other than that, we had Becky Lynch defeating Ruby Riott in a one-on-one match, and the Bludgeon Brothers beat the hell out of the Ascension in what was essentially a squash match. So that was pretty much your SmackDown Live in a nutshell there. So you guys let me know your thoughts on Raw and SmackDown this week. What do you think they're going to do at the Royal Rumble? Who's going to win? Who's going to win the title matches? What's going on with Daniel Bryan? Who's going to win the U.S. title tournament? All that kind of stuff. But I think next week things should start picking up. The last, I'd say, 3 weeks or so on Raw and SmackDown have just been, just fillers. They've just been killing time. They've been spinning their wheels. We haven't seen anything great or amazing or wonderful or anything like that. But now that we're a couple of weeks away from the Rumble and we got the go-home shows coming up, hopefully things will get really good and we'll have a fun couple of months here on TV because now we're into WrestleMania season officially once we get on the other side of the Royal Rumble. Before I get out of here, I do want to mention the Mixed Match Challenge. Now, the bracket for this recently came out. I've got that up on the screen here for you. We've got a grand total of 12 teams here, and it looks like that 11 of them are babyface and heel pairings. I think Bobby Roode and Charlotte Flair are the only face team that we have. Other than that, we've got Apollo Crews and Nia Jax, Rusev and Lana, Elias and Bayley, Naomi and whichever Uso she is married to, Goldust and Alicia Fox, Sami Zayn and Becky Lynch, Braun Strowman and Alexa Bliss, The Miz and Asuka, Big E and Carmella, Shinsuke and Natalya, and Sasha Banks and Finn Balor. If I had to pick a winner here looking at this tournament right now, and there's also, if you see here, down near the end, the semifinals, there's a second chance vote. So I guess whoever loses in the first round is going to be voted on, and maybe they get another chance there to get into the tournament. I don't know. But looking at the brackets, I would almost have to say that Miz and Asuka would be the favorites here. This thing begins airing, by the way, I think this coming Tuesday after SmackDown on Facebook. I guess I got to go to WWE's Facebook page to watch this shit. I really don't know. And I'm guessing, I don't even know when they're taping this. You guys are going to have to fill me in. I'm guessing they're just going to tape these matches at TV. I can't see them doing a whole separate arena for this, but they might be. I don't know. I don't think it's going to be like the Women's or the Cruiserweight Classic, but I could be wrong there as well. If I had to guess, I would assume that this might be just taped prior to Raw or SmackDown or something like that. I don't know. I don't know if I'm even going to watch this, to be honest with you. I'm probably going to take a look at it. I'll watch some clips, but I'm not going to be watching this thing straight through the way I did with the Cruiserweight Classic. I think this is an interesting idea. I'm curious to see how it works out for WWE, but it's not something that I'm like salivating over or I can't wait to see or anything like that. But very interesting pairings there, and should be a lot of fun, and hopefully it will be good and they can do this every year from here on out. But yeah, like I said, looking at the brackets here, I mean, Strowman and Bliss could be another favorite there, but Strowman, something will happen there with Strowman and Bliss. And The Miz and Asuka, you know, as dominant as Asuka is, and The Miz is going to be on a roll, you know, could be potentially be winning back the Intercontinental title here in just a couple of weeks. He's a major player, so they could be the likely victors here. And look at who is on the bottom. We might actually get Bobby Roode and Flair against Miz and Asuka in the finals. Charlotte and Asuka in the finals, I think that's a very big possibility there as well. And I've also noticed that this is a Raw versus SmackDown type of deal. All these teams are brand exclusive there. So I'm definitely curious about it, and I will definitely be taking a look at it, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to watch this thing straight through. So any updates you guys want to give me as this thing progresses on Facebook, feel free to Facebook them to me, tweet them to me, whatever, and let me know how this whole thing is going, and I will come up and comment on it once it's all over. So that is going to do it for me for this week. I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. Like I said, I will not be home this Monday night to watch Raw and do any live tweeting, and I will also not be home to do any live streaming either. So you will probably get me again in about a week's time with episode 478, unless I find some sort of an opportunity to come up here and do a live stream. Other than that, you'll get me in a week for my next podcast episode. Leave me all your thoughts and opinions on the Royal Rumble, on WrestleMania, on the 25th anniversary Raw, on the Undertaker, Goldberg, John Cena, everything that we talked about in this episode. Let me know what you think. Don't forget to check out my This Day in History episode that came up early this morning on the first ever WWE Monday Night Raw. You guys have a great rest of your week, and I will talk to you real soon. Until next time, peace.